I'm Jim Collison and live from the Gallup campus here in Omaha, Nebraska. This is Gallup's Theme Thursday, Season 3, recorded on February 2nd, 2017. Theme Thursday is a Gallup webcast series that dives deep into the CliftonStrengths Finder themes one at a time, and today's theme is a Ranger. It's a great theme, by the way, my number one. If you have questions, comments, or contributions during the webcast, we do have a live chat room available for you right below the main video window. Just look down right there. There's a chat room. Many of you watch, but you don't log into the chat room. Best way to get your questions in. There's a login button, bottom left-hand corner of the chat room. Click that, then choose the guest account, put your name in, and hit submit, and you're right on in. The best way to bring your questions in during the program. There's even two little red boxes in the upper right-hand corner. If you click on those, it'll pop those out of the browser, and you can put that anywhere in your computer that you want. Again, best way to stay communicated and have your questions asked during the program. If you're listening to the recorded version, you need custom strengths coaching solutions for small, medium, or large organizations, send us an email, coaching, and that's really an email for all questions, coaching@gallup.com. Don't forget to visit the Gallup Strengths Center, just gallupstrengthscenter.com for all your coaching resources and Strengths Finder training needs. And catch everything, all of our resources. People ask me all the time, what's available? Well, go to our coaches blog, coaching.gallup.com, and hit the resources tab, and there's all kinds of great stuff out there just for you. Micah Librant is our host today. She's one of my favorite learning and development consultants here at Gallup and on the riverfront. And Micah, what a crazy Thursday, but welcome to Theme Thursday.
Hey, Jim, thanks so much. It has been a crazy Thursday. So to be totally honest, I thought that my variable throwing into the mix today was going to be what threw us off. I led a breakfast briefing for our accelerated strengths coaching course in Raleigh, which is exactly 1 hour and 19 minutes from my house, according to Google Maps. And I left myself about 30 seconds to get back here and to do it in time. So I was thrilled that it was a sound issue that had nothing to do with me that helped us rearrange.
Typical arranger bliss, right? Lots of things going on all at the same time, trying to bring them in. You know, I love that, right? I mean, behind the scenes, sometimes it stresses me out a little bit, but maybe a perfect example of a ranger for me thriving in these situations where there's all, we had your schedule and bringing Angela in, and we had to switch her audio at the last minute, and we've got companion guides and people coming in from all over. So excited to talk about a Ranger. Hopefully everybody's downloaded the companion guide and has that out. Lots of great material. Micah, let's spend a few minutes. Why don't you dig in before we get with our guest? Why don't you dig in a little bit and let's work through a Ranger, and then we'll bring our guest in.
So I can't wait to talk about this. And I do have to say, if you're listening on the phone or you're really focusing on, gosh, why'd they start late? Why does audio matter so much? I just listened to 2 seasons of a Ranger during my drive, not looking at a video, but just absorbing those words. And your Ranger, Jim, is what made those 2 seasons happen. The fact that you can sort and you can say, sound matters or audio quality matters and be picky about that. A little bit of that is certainly your maximizer, but it was great Ranger on display. So today I'm thrilled to talk about this theme. You'll want to make sure and download our companion guide, because that will help you really understand the flow of our webcast today. A Ranger is an executing domain. That is really what we're going through right now. If you're trying to figure out what order we're broadcasting these in, it is alphabetical by domain. So those themes within that executing domain mean that if you're leading with these themes, you're leading by rolling up your sleeves and doing. There's an element of completion to all of these. With a Ranger, that completion comes out of configuration in order to get toward complete. The companion guide, my favorite thing about it is actually what we give you at the very top, which is the long definition. That full definition, I think, tells you quite a bit. I'm just going to give you a couple highlights about a Ranger. People with higher Ranger tend to be conductors, those people who can sort through the clutter, turn chaos into order. For people with higher Ranger, it is about trying to find the best way to get things done. Other people who may not have a Ranger are completely in awe of that. It is, I think, a lot of pathways in your brain about configuring, ordering, being brave enough to make any necessary change in the moment. But it is really rooted in logic. Let's not forget that it is a doing theme. It's an executing theme. So in season 1, Kurt Liesfeld actually talks about the difference between strategic and a Ranger. I think they can mimic each other quite a bit. The strategic theme is more about thinking about possibilities and creative options, whereas a ranger is a little bit more boots on the ground, a little bit more how do we sort through the most efficient actual black and white logistics. A ranger is about effective flexibility. So it's not just about reacting to change, but it really absorbing change, owning it, and then coming up with a plan that helps us move forward through change. There is a sense of a drive to accomplish within a ranger. I don't have high ranger, and I'll be totally honest, Jim is my favorite arranger, and I learned so much from you. And I can see when there's a bunch of balls in the air, or there's a bunch of tasks happening, or a bunch of things that all need to happen at the same time. People without a ranger, like me, would call those conflicting priorities or competing priorities. What I've noticed about leaders with a ranger is those actually become attractive priorities. It is about managing and interacting with all of those options in the best way that we can all move forward. Very often, arrangers can make great leaders because they can use this almost as a relationship building tool, being able to think about where is the best seat on the bus for everybody on our team in order for them to thrive. There is that almost like a watchmaker or a clockmaker, being able to understand where people will really be positioned best for the whole team to tick and move forward. People with higher ranger are really at their best in dynamic situations where things are changing. Depending on your other themes, that could mean where things are unexpected, or it could just mean where your clients' needs continually change, and perhaps they're a little bit more predictable. People with higher range are not typically afraid of jumping into something that other people might see as being confusing, because they're attracted to devising new options, looking for paths of least resistance, and in many cases, even looking for great partnerships that can help everybody move forward. The fact that it's in the executing domain is how I compare and contrast it to many other themes. You may not have a ranger, and you might be thinking, well, that really sounds like me. I think that what makes it different than something like deliberative or maximizer or even adaptability is that drive to complete. And it's a very serious, I think, zone that an arranger gets in when they're able to really interact with all those components to juggle a bunch of things and to really come up with the best configuration. How does this theme present itself in leaders? I think as an individual contributor, a ranger is about the healthiest way forward for you to manage your busy day. As a leader, it might be more not about the task, but about the team. How can, instead of seeing tasks on their list, how can that be seen through people? So how can you think about, how do I present or position the individual and very different talents of those folks on my team in order to move toward one task, or even in order to move toward lots of tasks? Different than adaptability, where adaptability responds to change, a ranger manages necessary change. And when it's at its very best, I think a ranger can sort. And maybe that even requires some other themes or some great partnership to really prioritize what change is the most necessary to make. So it's about being involved in the strategy, the plan, being involved from an angle of flexible detail. I think that arrangers aren't afraid of details, but they see not just the nugget of the detail, but the transition between that. So different than perhaps adaptability, where it is looking at the proof, the data, the facts. A ranger wants to look at the connections between those facts and how does the engine move forward. A great leadership extension of a ranger is to remain focused on deliverables so that you can then prioritize those areas that could use a little reconfiguration, a little redesign, perhaps what's most hungry for improvement around efficiency. I imagine a great ringleader of a circus who helps the players figure out how they can hum best together. One of the more important things that a leader with a ranger might want to think about is clearly communicating your best way of building a team. It's going to be through trust, through relationship, and also based on results. So not seeing trust and relationship as different than results. I think there is quite an element of relationship building within a ranger, and you deliver upon that trust by thinking about those deliverables, thinking about what needs to be completed. We also, if you take a look at the bottom of that first page of our companion guide, that's mirroring Gallup's research into followership. What we find is there are 4 different elements of willing followership. What do people say compels them to follow important leaders in their lives? Those are trust, compassion, stability, and hope. You may define these using other words, but we find that really those core principles of these 4 are it's something important for all leaders to give, regardless of whether they lead through executing, through relationship building, through strategic thinking, or through influencing. And we have a couple ideas. This is actually started. I didn't completely take this out of the Strengths-Based Leadership book, but there's a lot of it in there. A little bit also is my experience in coaching and my experience with a ranger. But how might a leader with this theme build trust? I think that is one of the most important themes often that leaders speak with me about in coaching conversations. And my thought around that is how can you practice speaking what truth you're seeing? I remember co-leading with one of my favorite teaching partners, Bruce Young. Bruce and I were teaching a strengths course. We showed up in a room that neither of us had ever been in, and we were trusting what the caterer had set up in terms of tables in order to be the best facilitation for the room. I have high woo, high adaptability, high positivity. I tend to just take what's given to me and create a better alternative through my presence. His arranger served us so much better than my approach alone. It was, he could see that these chairs could be arranged in a better way. He could see that our breakout for coffee was in a place that wouldn't allow people to talk to each other very easily. I could tell something was bothering him. And the moment when he just said, "Here's my observation," I think that was a powerful trust building moment. It certainly made me want to trust his arranger a little bit more. There's also, I think, a piece about arranger and any strength of realizing not everybody sees the truth that you're seeing. Trust yourself and your own ability to understand a reconfiguration. That might be something as simple as chairs and coffee. It might be something a little bit more complicated, a little bit less easy to see. It might be about human talent or relationships. But trust your ability, I think, first to know that you can see a better way, or that you can tap into other people who can see a better way. And then allow people into what that really is. In many leaders, arranger means that they can build trust by giving and receiving honest feedback mid-course. So different than responsibility, where responsibility really wants to hold on until the commitment has been fulfilled. Arranger oftentimes might be that nagging voice that says, hey, this commitment was important at the time, and now we need to go a different direction. So finding the best voice to give and receive that honest mid-course feedback, I think, is a great way to flex the trust muscle of higher rangers. When we talk about compassion, think about aiming a ranger at what's best for others. Invest time in considering how you might help people develop, how you might position them for success, and what you realize perhaps might be a good fit for them. When we think about stability, I think very often in that moment, a ranger goes pretty quickly through the hint that something could be better to the answer for what better looks like. But communicating through that entire process from the hint to the solution can throw people off. So as much as possible, keep the confusion away from others. Communicate the alternatives and the alterations after you've decided on which one is the best. It's not always necessary to take people into that thought process. Sometimes it's better to really help them see, here's what the alternatives look like. And finally, when we talk about hope, I think a ranger has a really important place to help release people from commitments that maybe aren't the best for them. I've spoken with managers of teams who are bold enough to say, you don't have to accomplish the same things that your peers are accomplishing in order to be recognized. And that kind of reconfiguration, that redefining what work and what deliverables can look like, so that you're helping people commit to the most important items for them and for the team, I think is something that absolutely builds all 4 of these, but that I would pin on hope. So there's my about 10-minute overture on what a ranger looks like, specifically with leaders. Really, my job in this program is to make sure that this language that we call common is in fact common. I will be honest, I don't have Hire Ranger, and it's one that I'm continually fascinated by. So I'm thrilled that we get to speak with both Jim and Angela today, who both lead with a ranger, really about what it looks like for them in action. How's that sound, Jim?
Sorry, Mikey, you caught me with the with the mute on. It
Sorry,
sounds
were you
good.
in the zone?
Well, as we think about this, one of the things I'll add when we think about the four components of the needs of the follower, and Angela and I were talking about this off, and then I want you to introduce Angela in here. So communication is really key to me, because a lot of times I don't give, when I think about the really the area of stability as an arranger, giving people when I lead. A ranger can go very fast with a lot of things, and it's very confusing to a lot of people if it's not communicated well. And in the chat room, we were talking about, Kurt would call these a theme package. I'm just making this up, by the way. I have no documentation. Don't ask for it. I don't have it. But this arranger woo communication package that I see a lot of when I talk with arrangers, and I have to continually work with my communication to let people know what I'm doing. I'll go a million miles an hour and just assume that people are coming along with me in a leadership role. And I have to work really, really hard to lean on communication to bring them in and make sure they're doing, because the woo communication is so strong and so moving forward and so influential. If I'm not doing that job of convincing them they should be following because we're going somewhere, oftentimes I'll leave them in the dust. So just one of those things, as I was reading, getting prepared for this week, I was like, oh yeah, I really have to be careful not to lose them, and to give them, and this is an area in my leadership I struggle in, is stability, giving them this stable environment where they feel comfortable, and it's super important. So that's my take. Micah, let's introduce our guest.
Great. So I'm thrilled to introduce Angela Martinez. Angela Belden Martinez serves as the Regional Director for the Economic Development Administration, or as you may know it, the EDA. She's in the Denver Regional Office. EDA is a bureau responsible for leading the federal economic development agenda within the U.S. Department of Commerce. Angela joined the Denver office in 2016 after serving for more than 6 years as EDA's Director of External Affairs in Washington, D.C. It was there that she advised the Assistant Secretary on strategic policy issues and managed both the legislative and public affairs work of the agency. As part of her work and her accomplishments with the EDA, Angela has helped shape and launch several multi-agency initiatives, including the Jobs and Innovation Accelerator Challenge, which I think sounds like it'd have the coolest badge ever, the Investing in Manufacturing Communities Partnership, and the EDA's new Regional Innovation Strategies Program. Her top five, in fact, I struggled with wanting to bring her on for almost all of these five because she's got some powerful stories around what they look like, but they are belief, developer, maximizer, relator, and arranger. And Angela, we're just thrilled to have you here to talk a little bit about what that looks like for you. So welcome to the program.
Thanks. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Angela, just to kick things off, can you tell us a little bit about what a ranger looks like in your life?
Sure. I really think just to start with the strengths overall, EDA actually brought in Gallup about a year ago to provide coaching for our executive leaders at the agency. And I was very quick to embrace it and work with my coach. And one of the things that I think that some leaders, feel like they have to be a certain way, that you have to be, more, not as flexible or more, decisive, and not as, don't build, people that work for you or whatever. And for me, like focusing on the strengths has really allowed me to be myself and realize that the strengths that I bring to the table are what make me a good leader across the board. So I think that it's helped me be more present with my staff. I think it also gives them more confidence in me as a leader because those strengths. And maybe that's, a little bit of each of them, a lot of probably of the maximizer where I know who I am and this is what makes me who I am. So for a ranger, I think a lot of what you said really resonated with me. I'm actually in a fairly new position. I've been in this office leading our team of about 20 people since May. And that when I came in, there was discussion of doing a reorg. So I didn't want to make changes just because I'm a new leader and I just, just think they have to change. But I really wanted to get a sense of what are people's strengths? What do they bring to the table? What do they like to do? If you like your job, then you're going to do it better. So we took probably more time than people wanted to really put that configuration together, but grant processing in our office, and it's not super exciting. But we also build a lot of relationships with our stakeholders, the communities that we give grants to. And I've really wanted to figure out, and we had a session here with our whole team on strengths. So I know everybody's strengths who work on my team. So that really helped me understand how to configure our staff in a way that maximizes what they bring to the table, what's unique for each person, and what they like to do as well. So we've actually empowered each of our staff members here in our office with pieces of our programs that they fit better with. And I had one-on-one meetings with each of them to, ask them, what do you feel like your strengths are? What are you most interested in working in? And we made changes in the office to play to those strengths. So we're implementing it. We just launched it a couple months ago, and we're implementing it now. And I also think my arranger allows me to be rigid in what that looks like, because it may not work. And I communicated that with them. We're gonna, if it's not working, communicate with me and let me know, and we'll change it and we'll fix it. So it seems to be going well, and I think that people are really embracing that empowerment and the new roles that they're taking on in the office.
So it sounds like there was a lot of change happening to you, but that you also sort of grabbed that change and hugged it and ran with it. That can be terrifying for people who follow you. Even the idea that, wow, I might not do what other people on my team are doing, but that there might be this flexibility. How did people respond to that initially?
One thing that before I came on board, the leadership here really engaged the whole team. So everybody gave their opinion on how they thought the office should be organized. But I think they recognized that I needed the time to come in and get a sense of we do our work and what our responsibilities are. And I think that they've been, quite open to it. They went a while without a director, so I think we're really hungry for someone to make decisions and just keep things moving. And, in the federal government, the time, at least every 4 to 8 years, right now we're in the middle of a change in administration from a Democrat to a Republican. So that's just going to come with a lot of changes of what our priorities might look like. And it was really important to me to get our staff in a good spot as quickly as possible, because we know there are things that we just have to do. We have to process our grants and work with our clients on the ground, and just to do that really well, so we can be able to take whatever different direction our new leadership wants us to move in and pivot and go in that direction, but still be successful and certainly keep people engaged so that they enjoy what they're doing and can be flexible to the change as well. And it doesn't, make everybody all spun up.
How does it feel when you're making those pivots?
It's certainly, the environment that we're in now is a little unnerving. There's things in the news that our agency could be eliminated by the administration. We have Congress to deal with. I used to work on political campaigns, so I like really are kind of going a million miles a minute. So it doesn't, I don't get too ruffled by it, but I do see a lot of the folks on my team are really anxious. There's a lot of anxiety. Are we going to get closed down or whatever? So, I just try to be really positive. I think communication is really key. Like, whatever I know, I try to share with them. I think not hearing about what's happening or understanding the decision-making behind the changes makes it even, increases the anxiety level. So I try to communicate. I do try to, why I'm making, I feel like I do make a lot of tweaks along the way. Certainly looking for ways that we can be more efficient, as you talked about earlier, and do our work in a more streamlined way. And I do see how that can be like, it kind of looks like I might be all over the place. So I think it is very important that I'm, intentional, and they understand that it's intentional what I'm trying to do and why we're trying to move in that direction.
I love that idea of not just nudging for the sake of nudging, not just getting bored and sort of picking at things and reorganizing. It sounds like there's a real purposefulness to why you're changing. Has your arranger ever gotten in your way or played out in a less than purposeful direction?
I would say probably yes, because it does make me kind of, I guess I'm trying to think how I should say this. I have in my mind how I think things should play out. And sometimes, I start moving in that direction and people can't read my mind, right? And for me, like, I feel like I'm empowering people, like, go do your thing. And if they're not doing it, in that particular way, and I think it sometimes it's like I have to slow myself down and take that moment to kind of give that vision of, why we need to be flexible or what my expectations are. I think sometimes, a lot of times, people are looking to their leaders to give them direction, and they need that permission to be empowered, I guess, in a way. So I think I worked on a lot of political campaigns, and I would get more focused on just moving things forward and less focused on the detail. And when I went into another job in a public relations firm, we were being paid to get everything perfect, right? And the detail was very important. So I had to shift. It wasn't just to get the word out or get, whatever that was done. It had to be done perfectly. And learning that lesson, it was a tough lesson to learn with clients if you made a mistake or got something wrong. But learning that lesson, I think, has helped me in the rest of my positions to kind of slow down a little bit. And, when we're putting things out for a client or on behalf of the federal government and our agency, it's got to be right. So that's one way that I've kind of had to redirect it, I guess.
Michael, let me jump in because Chad had asked this question. He says, what themes have been the most helpful to pair for the noted changes? And Angela, you and I had talked about, as we look at the needs of a follower, and for for the environment right now, stability and hope seem to be really, really important, right? Because people don't know what's going on. It's not a matter of not either having or not having a job, but it's an uncertain time. I also, in pre-show, you and I were talking about your belief and your relator. And to me, that would seem to be a pretty powerful combo that you could bring in. Can you talk a little bit about in your relationship with your coworkers in this time when maybe stability and hope are needed? How do you think, or how are you using those? And throw others in. I'm just guessing at those two, but how are you deploying that to kind of help during this maybe uncertain time?
Well, I think I probably rely on the belief a lot in the sense that we work for an agency that helps people, right? And that really speaks to me. It really drives me on why I want to work in this agency. So there's just a lot of busyness happening that we can't control. But at the end of the day, I remind the staff, the work that we do is helping people get jobs. That's got to speak to our new leaders. That's got to, and it also is why they work here. So, kind of really kind of honing them in on that and reminding them about that. And we do that through, I just got back from travel where I was in a community that has benefited from our investments. So in our next staff meeting, those of us who were on that trip will talk about, what we did on that trip, who we met with, the people that are going through the job training center that are getting connected to jobs that wouldn't have had that without our investment. And I think that kind of honing in on that doing our jobs, and controlling the things that we have control over, you know, kind of helps. And I think, you know, I like relationships with people. So I don't sit in my office with my door shut. As I said earlier, I really do try to communicate what I'm learning from my boss and what he's learning from his boss that trickles to me. I try to share that with them because I think, kind of lower that anxiety level. And also I'm real with them. You know, the things that I get nervous about, I don't get over nervous about it, but I relate to them in that sense. Like, I understand it's a tough time, but let's focus on what we're doing and keep things moving forward. So just try to keep a open communication, a collaborative atmosphere.
Angela, you just illustrated two huge things, and one of them is how beautiful your belief is. I just think it certainly drives you. You even had almost a more energized tone in your voice when you're telling us about why you do what you do and how that affects other people. It's that out loud expression of your values. The other thing that I just see so clearly, though, is what a ranger does in times of uncertainty. And I have yet to meet a leader who isn't feeling like there's absolutely peaks and valleys, but it feels more uncertain now than it ever has. And that idea of, you know, I could hear you, I could imagine you being on the ground in that community. And meanwhile, that a ranger is starting to think, how am I going to present this? What is the story going to look like? Who does the audience need to be? Who's going to be the other players in bringing that experience back to those people in your office? And that's just, it almost looks like communication, that combination of belief and a ranger. It's really beautiful.
Thank you.
So I'm curious, when you think about a ranger, as a leader, being yourself means that you can let go of who you're not. And you talked about that being kind of an empowering experience for the people on your team and also for you. Sometimes when we let go of who we're not, we realize that we need partners. So who have been some good partners for you, or what have you found to be beneficial, maybe even on a peer level, that helps you feed and get the most out of that ranger talent?
Right. One of my other directors here in the office is restorative as her number one, and that's my number 32 or whatever the last one is. So she's always looking for, from what I understand of restorative, she's always looking for a problem, and she attacks equally, and tries to find a solution for all of them. That is complete opposite of how I think. I'm looking at, like, what's the biggest thing at the moment? What's going to get us the biggest return on investment, the biggest bang for our buck? But also, I think my strengths lead me to just very much from my gut, and it just drives me, and I'm like, oh, let's do this, and I move in that direction. And two of the last people who have worked just directly for me that have managed other people have helped balance me on that and ask the right questions, and help me to kind of, as a team, like, okay, let's think through this. What are the consequences for the staff? What are the consequences for our clients and our stakeholders? So that's been really helpful. Sometimes it can be frustrating because I feel like they're stopping me from my momentum. But it is very helpful to me to, you know, keep in mind what they bring to the table and how to leverage that and empower them, and also let them know that they need to slow me down sometimes. And I'm not going to be offended or upset if they do. I actually appreciate it.
That's cool. It brings us back to the idea of just, you know, quick feedback, real feedback, being engaged with other people who are seeing the whole picture just like you are, but maybe from a different angle. Mm-hmm. That's great. Angela, thanks so much. Jim, do we have any questions from the chat that would help us out a little bit?
Yeah, I threw that question out there. I'll give him a second to respond. While I'm waiting for him, Angela, I want to ask you, you know, for me, a ranger is really what I call my firefighter talent. It's one of those paired with activator. It allows me to do a whole bunch of things all at once. I enjoy the chaos, right? I actually thrive under situations that are chaotic and there's a lot of things coming in. I look for those. How does that, for a ranger, for you in leadership roles or in the midst of chaos, You have a completely, not completely, you still have Maximizer. We share that together, but how do you live in the world of chaos? Is that something you enjoy, you look for? Is that something that's okay? I mean, just tell me a little bit about when things get chaotic, how do you respond?
I feel like I'm at my best when things are chaotic as well. So I totally agree with you. I, some of my previous work has been on political campaigns. And it's probably demented to say this, but the best days on those campaigns are when the you-know-what hits the fan and you have to just like react and put out those fires, as you said. And those, I think that's when I'm at my best. Certainly, I have boring days, and those are the days when I don't really feel like I'm utilized enough. But the days when, like here, when we're trying to put our team together, or the boss calls and, the White House needs something right away and we have to put it together. I can help direct that. And those are the days that, at the end of the day, I feel like I had the biggest accomplishment.
Yeah.
What's that like? Does it happen kind of automatically? Do you have to stop and take a breath? I feel like we're describing a superpower.
Yes, I have to take a breath, but I also just start, I just kick into motion and just get it done. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. You don't have a lot of time in that situation to think about it. And again, I think that's where, I just go from my gut and in a lot of ways instinctively know what to do or know who to call and ask what to do, and just keep it moving to get a solution.
As a kid, I used to create chaos when none existed so that I could fix it. So, it might be I would mess up my room. Like I would rearrange everything just so I'd have a mess to clean up. I take things apart. Now, some of that, again, Maximizer's kicking a little bit there because I want to make things better, but I would constantly be changing the environment around me so that I would have something to fix. What's interesting for me is once it's fixed, it's boring. I've already moved on, right? And I'm ready for the next thing. And I had to learn as a leader here at Gallup, I had to learn to find those ways to hand those processes off to someone who didn't like chaos, who liked stability and process, right? I am just not a process guy at all. And so it was really, really comfortable to hand those things off. So I think as a leader sometimes too, when we recognize these things about ourselves, is to say, I'm not always the best at creating stability. And so I need a partner with someone. I'm not the ideal stability guy. I need to partner. I bet you've got some partners that help, like you love the firefight, but then you need to hand some of those at the end of the day, when the fire's been put out, hand some of those processes over, right, to some folks that are able to handle it. So let's see. We had a question. Ian had said, it scrolled up on me again already. That was quick. You guys are chatting a lot out there. Let me find Ian's question again. Do arrangers sometimes take on too much because they are so organized? And I'm not very organized, but let me ask this question of you, Angela. Do you feel like sometimes, because we feel like we can take on absolutely everything, right? Do you feel like you take on too much? And how do you stop that? Or how do you mitigate that? Because I don't think you ever want to stop, but how do you mitigate that?
I do feel like probably sometimes I take on too much. I don't consider myself that organized. I think, I try to write stuff down. I try to keep, my under, because it keeps me from getting too off base. I think I'm always looking for improvements, and I think that's probably a mix of arranger and maximizer. So, it keeps me busy, but I think I have a lot of people here in the staff that are very opposite from my style. And I think the leader that they had previous to me was very opposite from my style. So I have a lot of stability, a lot of people who are follow through. And so from our management team and the rest of our team, I think we have a good mix. And I think absolutely right about handing things off when you get to a point and you have a great idea. And I know I'm not super good at just sitting down and executing, one project from start to finish. So, you know, I'm able to identify the people on the team who can come in and, you know, bring them in early when, you know, the vision is being formed and get their buy-in, and then they can run with it and then celebrate their success, of course, as well. So they get, you know, they get the credit. I don't,
so that height of a ranger awareness is realizing you can use a ranger to account for arranging.
Yeah, and
Yes.
Bert
Yes,
says
absolutely.
in the chat, he said to exactly what you're saying. Bert says, and you need to be aware that your direct reports can be overwhelmed by the chaos and instability created by arrangers, right? And so realizing that in your own leadership, yeah, that's very, very key, I think, is right. We understand that by getting those people. It took me a while to figure that out, that I really craved and needed those process people, right? I really needed the folks who didn't want to do the chaos, but could pick up what I had, you know, what I had sorted out, could pick up those pieces and then would thrive in the stability. So I think that's really important. And then I think it's also key, like you said, we have to recognize that fact and then recognize the people who go through the firefight with us, because it's very, very stressful, right? And so we need to encourage and celebrate them and send emails that say we had 1 million views to our coach's blog, right, Micah? We have to do those kinds of things, right?
Did that happen?
For me, honestly, it's a big step to want to celebrate those kinds of things. I would rather celebrate it. For me, getting it done is the celebration. Like, hey, we're done. Woohoo. I don't need a party, but there are folks who kind of need that recognition. So I think it's important as arrangers we recognize that. Angela, we know you've got a hard stop here, and we started a little bit late. So I think, Micah, let's thank Angela for coming. We're going to let her drop, and then you and I can finish. Will that work?
Excellent.
For you? So, Micah, let's do a few final thoughts, and let's thank Angela for coming.
Well, I think, Angela, you've given us a great example of what we need more of in the world, people who can handle chaos by turning it into order. and I think that provides a lot of hope, a lot of belief for people. Thank you for giving us a good preview of belief. We're actually going to talk about that next week, but I think, you know, this will be a great playback to come back to what it looks like when you live with your values on your sleeve. So thanks for everything that you give. Very often, speaking about celebrations, I think Sarah says in the chat that heroes get accolades when they finally put out the fire. But perhaps we need to give some accolades to the assist, the people who organized things in the best way so that those heroes could come up and finish the job. So please count this as a little bit of a celebration of all the work that you do, even sort of pulling strings behind the scenes that I'm sure goes unnoticed, but certainly not unappreciated. Thank you so much for being here.
Great. Thanks. It was great. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Angela, and thanks for being calm and collective throughout the process today of arranging the sound. So I appreciate it. We'll let you drop. Thanks for coming in.
Okay, take care.
Take care. Micah, as we lose Angela, any final thoughts you want to bring in as we think about concluding Arranger here?
My favorite image of a ranger is really just this idea. We used to have quotes scroll across our screens here at Gallup, and it was a quote for all 34. And I'm going to misquote this one because I couldn't find it on Google at all. So don't put air quotes around this at all. But it was just this idea. I believe it was attributed to Beethoven, and it was about living in this space where music was just swirling all around me, and I couldn't make order of it until I put it onto paper. And I think that's a lot of what's magical and what's strategic about a ranger, is being able to attack chaos where other people are concerned about it or afraid of it or want to run away from it. And you can do it in a way that sets others up for great success. So, Jim, you probably embody the power of the assist better than anybody I've ever met. And all of the sort of paddling like crazy and organizing like crazy that happens very often behind the scenes certainly allows for greatness in others. As season 3 focuses on leadership, I can think of no better way to talk about a ranger, and then it being the ability to set people up as a great assist, the ability to make sure that we're running in the right direction, in the most efficient path, and that the means matter as do the ends. So I'd encourage all of you to go out and hug an ranger today. The world certainly could use a little bit more of them.
We'll take a virtual hug here, Micah. Thank you for doing it. I think I said in season 2 that I really like being in Star Trek terminology, the number one, which is the second in command kind of guy. And I really think that a ranger talent helps me with that. I don't know if I need to be out front leading, but I do love to come behind people and help them. You know, you said the power of the assistant. I think we talked about that a bunch in season 2. So go back and listen to that if you haven't heard it. But I do enjoy that, and it's a great spot to be in. When you know that spot, you don't have to be the guy out or the gal out front. You can be the one that assists the leaders, man. I love that. So, Mike, I get to do that for you, which is really cool. I get to come on here and really assist you in what we do here. So thanks for letting me do that. We'll remind everyone to take full advantages of all the resources we have available at the Gallup Strength Center, just gallupstrengthcenter.com. Send us your questions or comments. If you do want to be a guest blogger, and we're taking those too. By the way, the blog is blowing up. I just mentioned that congratulations to Micah. Her blog did 1 million views. In fact, it was just yesterday. We crossed over the threshold. So congratulations, Micah, to you. Great work on the blog. I appreciate all the work that you do there. If you'd like to participate in that, we are taking those. We want fully formed original content that's available for us. Send that to coaching@gallup.com. Put guest blogger in the subject line, and they'll route that over to Micah, and we can consider you for the blog. You can also catch the recorded audio and video of this program, as well as all the past ones, the links to our Facebook group, YouTube page, iTunes, RSS feeds, iPhone, Android apps, as well as everything we're doing, including Mastery Monday. Micah, have you checked out Mastery Monday yet? What's that all about?
It's so cool. So, you know what, if you are, I've noticed, so be on Instagram, follow @StrengthsTalk. That's me. Because of this, I'm following other people who talk about strengths because you can click on a hashtag. And I've noticed that a lot of people like to take their clients or take their social media public through one theme a week. You can join with us and do the same order so that the whole world is talking about the same theme every week. You know, you can go out to our coaching.gallup.com/live and check out the calendar and just plan your week around ours. The power of shared conversation is huge. So Mastery Monday is a way to build upon Theme Thursday. Every week on Monday, you get to read a blog written by Dr. Al Winsman. If you read Living Your Strengths, he was a part of creating that book. He'll take the theme of the week and just simply compare it and contrast it to other themes. And that's something that we don't do in depth, even in our courses. I mean, we do it, but then you leave the course. So it's fantastic ongoing education. It's fantastic awareness about your own themes. That comes live every Monday. You can follow us through social media throughout the week. And then we have Theme Thursday on Thursday. So I really feel like this, we're hitting a major turning point, and it's just that really steep curve up to helping people really understand the strengths. You know, we've had 15 million folks take StrengthsFinder, but that doesn't mean 15 million people know what that means or can use it. Everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs a little bit of self-reflection and some time to really understand what in the world is this about. Mastery Monday is a great way to do it. Did I mention you should follow us on Instagram @StrengthsTalk? A picture's worth a lot of words, I hear. I'm trying to provide some pictures that you can share with other folks in order to also understand the depth and the power of each of these Clifton Strengths themes.
Yeah, and they're really powerful when you share them. That's what we'd encourage you to do. So pass them on, put them in your Facebook feed, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever you're doing. Just get them out there. Micah, can you believe somebody told me the other day I was a little too old to be as social as I am? They looked at the gray on the side. You're never too old for any of this stuff. So jump in the pool and let's get swimming, and let's help others to get access to this information. We create a lot of it, and we'd love to have you share it. Don't forget also about the summit that's coming up. We have a whole bunch of folks come into our Clifton Strengths Summit this summer, July 17th, 18th, and 19th. The early bird special pricing ends February 28th. It's not too late to get registered for it. Head out to CliftonStrengthsSummit.com, and there's a lot of information available, including the speakers, which I think we're releasing during the month. So you might want to head out there to see who is speaking. If you found this helpful, I mentioned before, we'd ask that you share it. We'll look forward to Theme Thursday next week. I think we're talking about belief. And with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.